This morning, most of the papers focus on the End Bad Governance protests, along with the president's speech and reactions to it. Let's start with the Daily Times newspaper. Atiku, PDP, RSM kick as Tinubu begs protesters not to shut down economy. Right above it is End Bad Governance and quite a number of riders to the story. The Vanguard newspaper, protests, Tinubu's broadcast fell short of expectations. Organizers, Atiku, Shoyinka, PDP, NLC, others. All of that is packed on page 5 of the paper this morning. Tinubu draws flack after a broadcast on hashtag End Bad Governance protests. A retinue of riders followed that one as well. The Guardian newspaper, outrage over rehash of old policies, threats, failure to soothe protesters. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Daily Trust newspaper, Atiku, Shoyinka, Falana, others pick holes in Tinubu's speech. And the riders are also right there on the front page of the paper. Nigerian News Direct, End Bad Governance. Protesters defy FG as demonstration enters day 5 with renewed vigor. The story comes along with some riders. Page 5 has the details. Blueprint newspaper, protests, Fintiri, Ohukwe, Sislak, others hail Tinubu on broadcast. It's time to end protests, embrace dialogue, APC chieftain, with issues with president's address, Atiku, Falana, and a number of other people. You'll find their reactions as well on the inside pages of the Blueprint newspaper. National broadcast, that's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. What Tinubu should have said, Shoyinka, Atiku, Falana. That story has its details on page 22 of the paper this morning. The Abuja Inquirer, hashtag End Bad Governance protest, Tinubu under fire over broadcast. PDP, Falana, Ezekwesili, others flay president. Protesters vow to push on. Kachiku, Akande sue for truce. The Nigerian Observer has this one. Tinubu leaves most protesters' demands unanswered. What does that mean? The riders, Shoyinka, Falana, others fault president's broadcast. Protesters say demands not addressed. Regroup. Details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. These are some of the papers we have for you today.
I mean, I'm taking my papers today from the This Day newspaper. I think that there's a particular headline that has to do with journalists. So let's see if we can get that. The This Day, this Nigeria, beg your pardon, this Nigeria newspaper. And we're seeing it there, more of it on page 14 of this Nigeria. Sanction Nigeria over attacks on journalists, protesters, according to Serap, and they're telling the Commonwealth. Well, they're talking to Madam Patricia Scotland, really, there, saying, you know, that they're asking for some charter to look into, you know, these situations where many journalists said they were attacked, you know, and of course the protesters, and we've heard of death toll, we've heard of so many people who are in police custody, and Serap is speaking up there saying that some kind of sanction should come up against Nigeria. But the reason why I brought that up is because we just got an update from the Commissioner of Police here in Abuja, and they're saying, and I'm going to read it verbatim. This is from the PRO of the FCT, Josephine Ade, says, I find it necessary to state that the police would never shoot at journalists. For what reason? Those covering us know how much we value our relationship with them. The CPFCT specifically ordered that journalists be protected during the ongoing protest. There is no way we would single them out and start attacking them. So that's from the FCT. For other parts of northern Nigeria, you know, what statements are they going to be giving out? Are there investigations going on? We saw situations in Lagos, at least we saw that on news yesterday, where protesters were being attacked by hoodlums, and the police were watching, and you heard the protesters asking the police, why are you here if you're not going to protect us? How much of that happened across the country? So that's why I'm taking it from this morning, This Day, this Nigeria newspaper there, sanctioned Nigeria over attacks on journalists and protesters, according to Serap, and Serap is saying that to the Commonwealth. More on that from page 14 of this Nigeria. Ayo, what are you looking at?
I'm on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, and there's hardly anyone who uses mobile internet that will not identify with this one. Front page of the Guardian newspaper has this one. at the bottom of the page, actually, poor internet service lingers as NCC denies new tariff. Can I just stop at poor internet service lingers? Am I allowed to do that? You can relate, right? And there are some mentioning a particular network now, but hitherto, 2 others have had serious issues. And I'm wondering, it's just an unfortunate coincidence. So it's just at this time that the protests began, that this particular service provider decided to be having problems. Did they decide to be having problems? I don't know. But that's the assumption some people are going to make. Oh, man, this must be one of those things that government was doing to try to frustrate these protests and all of that. It's about time the NCC came out to say, well, we're not even talking about whether or not it's about the tariff increase or whatever. It's about whether or not it is intended to frustrate people from getting things done as far as the protests are concerned. Even at that, we still saw the things that happened on the streets, so many people were still able to put out word. So that is a serious concern that we need to pay attention to. Now, if I can just quickly put in a word on that issue that you raised the other time, Kayla, before we go into the issues for the day. You talked about what we'll be talking about during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, and he's going to be leading us at that. And I'm just hoping they'll be able to talk about this as well. Quite a number of people have talked about the fact that food inflation is the highest of the indicators of the entire inflation package that we have in the country today. Add that to the fact that inflation rate now is at such a rate that it is difficult for you to consider taking a loan to do business. And what then is the function of banks if I can't go in there, get business, get a loan to do business and make some good money? If, for instance, I take a loan of, say, 900 million naira, and I'm supposed to pay an interest rate of what? 30%? Gosh, that's about 300 million naira. Gosh. Well, I'd rather just go and do what I would normally do, talk to a few friends who are not going to charge me that much, give them a bite of the business. So I don't know if it is something that the federal government will also be looking into, the CBN, the Minister of Finance, because I don't know how easy it is for us to do business in Nigeria. We've been talking about ease of doing business for a while. So farmers are worst hit at this time. But thankfully, the Minister of Agriculture spoke with us yesterday. But let's see what that will produce. You've made a promise. We're waiting on you. So food inflation, can we find a way to deal with that head on? Maybe Business Morning on Sunrise Daily will be dealing with that sufficiently. In the meantime, let's take a short break. When we return, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty.